The great power competition between the United States and China has, for years, manifested prominently in the economic sphere through a protracted and damaging trade war. This conflict, characterized by escalating tariffs and retaliatory measures, has cast a long shadow over global commerce and international relations. Recent developments, however, suggest a potential, albeit fragile, shift in this confrontational dynamic, offering a moment of respite. As of May 14, 2025, a significant tariff truce came into effect, signaling a de-escalation in this bitter economic struggle. This agreement, brokered after intense negotiations, involves the cancellation of some existing tariffs and the suspension of others for a 90-day period. The period leading up to this truce was marked by considerable economic disruption. Supply chains were reconfigured, businesses faced heightened uncertainty, and consumers often bore the brunt of increased costs. The United States, concerned about its trade deficit and China's technological ambitions, initiated tariff measures to which China responded in kind. This new phase, initiated by the May 2025 truce, therefore warrants careful scrutiny. Is it a genuine step towards a more stable economic relationship, or merely a temporary lull before the storm resumes, perhaps with even greater intensity? The specifics of the May 14, 2025 agreement reveal a substantial, though perhaps temporary, rollback of the punitive tariffs that have defined the trade war. Under the terms of this truce, United States tariffs on a wide array of Chinese imports are set to decrease dramatically, falling from an average of 145% down to 30%. Conversely, China has also committed to substantial tariff reductions on goods imported from the United States. Chinese tariffs on American products will see a remarkable drop from an average of 125% to a mere 10%. The agreement also stipulates a 90-day suspension period for certain other tariffs, adding an element of conditionality and short-term focus to the truce. This time frame, ending around August 12, 2025, acts as a probationary period during which both sides will likely assess compliance and the broader economic and political impacts. The economic consequences of the trade war prior to this truce were stark and far-reaching. There had been a noticeable collapse in the volume of goods shipped across the Pacific, a direct result of the prohibitively high tariffs making many trade routes economically unviable. With the announcement of the May 2025 truce and the significant tariff reductions, there is a widespread expectation of a rebound in trans-Pacific shipping. The composition of trade between the two nations in 2024 highlights the areas most affected and now poised for change. The United States primarily exported agricultural products like soybeans, alongside pharmaceuticals and petroleum, to China. On the other side, China's exports to the U.S. were dominated by electronics, computers, and toys, including a significant number of smartphones, such as Apple iPhones manufactured in China. Despite the extensive tariff war, a significant trade imbalance persisted. In 2024, the United States imported approximately $440 billion worth of goods from China, while its exports to China amounted to only $145 billion. In the aftermath of the May 14, 2025 tariff truce, political figures on both sides of the Pacific have been quick to frame the development in terms favorable to their domestic audiences. In the United States, the Trump administration, which initiated many of the aggressive tariff measures, has portrayed the truce as a significant win, showcasing President Trump's purported deal-making prowess and his commitment to rectifying perceived trade injustices that have long plagued the American economy. Simultaneously, officials in Beijing have also presented the agreement as a positive outcome, emphasizing their role in stabilizing a critical economic relationship and resisting undue external pressure. However, beyond the official pronouncements and carefully crafted public statements, a more critical assessment is offered by independent analysts and observers of international political economy. Many suggest that China may, in fact, be emerging from this particular round of negotiations in a relatively stronger position. The underlying distrust that fuels the security dilemma between the US and China remains deeply entrenched. The 90-day suspension period for certain tariffs, ending August 12, 2025, introduces significant uncertainty into the US-China trade landscape. This limited timeframe ensures that the current de-escalation is not taken for granted. Without a permanent agreement, the specter of renewed tariff hikes looms large. Despite this, there are official expressions of optimism regarding future US-China economic relations. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent hopes to avoid a full-scale decoupling, emphasizing potential cooperation. Similarly, China's Commerce Ministry favors stable and predictable trade ties. Ongoing talks aim at exploring pathways to more durable agreements. These negotiations will likely be complex, touching upon core issues like intellectual property rights and market access. The success of these talks depends on negotiators' skill and the broader geopolitical climate. The potential for higher tariffs underscores the fragility of the current truce. Even before the May 2025 tariff truce, there were clear indications from Beijing that its immediate priorities were increasingly centered on domestic economic revitalization. At the China Development Forum on 23 March 2025, Chinese Premier Li Qiang delivered a significant address that heavily emphasized the imperative of economic recovery. His speech highlighted key areas for government focus, including bolstering consumer spending, fostering indigenous innovation, and actively attracting foreign investment. This inward turn, prioritizing economic stability and growth over escalating geopolitical conflict, provides crucial context for understanding China's motivations in agreeing to the recent trade de-escalation with the United States. The emphasis on consumer spending is particularly noteworthy. Years of stringent zero-COVID policies, coupled with global economic headwinds and the trade war itself, had dampened domestic demand within China. The leadership in Beijing recognizes that a robust internal market is essential for sustained economic development and social stability, a cornerstone of the Chinese Communist Party's legitimacy. Therefore, measures that reduce external economic pressures, such as the tariff truce, align well with this overarching domestic agenda. The aggressive tariff policies pursued by the United States, particularly under the Trump administration, have impacted the sentiment of elite young Chinese towards America. Studies reveal an increase in resentment towards the U.S. among university students in Beijing. This growing resentment may increase support for assertive national policies, including unification with Taiwan. The Chinese Communist Party invests in shaping youth views through patriotic education campaigns. These initiatives instill national pride and loyalty to the party's leadership. Within China, attitudes towards nationalism and key geopolitical issues like Taiwan are not monolithic. Significant generational differences appear to exist. Research suggests that middle-aged working-class Chinese individuals often hold more overtly nationalistic views. For this cohort, the question of Taiwan is frequently seen as a matter of profound national pride and historical rectification, a core component of China's rejuvenation. In contrast, many among the younger, more educated generations, particularly those in urban centers, exhibit a more economically pragmatic and less overtly hawkish outlook. The survey of university students in Beijing, for instance, indicated that Taiwan ranked second to last in importance among a list of 8 domestic issues presented to them. Far more pressing for these young elites were concerns such as the post-COVID economic recovery, the growing gap of socio-economic inequality, and the maintenance of overall social stability. The recent tariff truce, while offering a temporary reprieve, does little to alter the fundamental anarchic nature of the international system, or the enduring strategic competition between the United States and China. For U.S. policymakers, navigating this complex relationship requires a clear-eyed assessment of both the opportunities for tactical cooperation and the persistent realities of great power rivalry. One key consideration should be the potential for U.S. actions, particularly in the economic sphere, to inadvertently fuel Chinese nationalism and support for state-driven assertiveness, including potential aggression towards Taiwan. Therefore, a prudent approach for the United States might involve a careful separation of its rhetoric and policy actions concerning trade from those concerning the highly sensitive issue of Taiwan. Conflating these distinct areas risks escalating tensions on multiple fronts simultaneously. The U.S.-China economic relationship is almost certain to become more volatile in the coming years, irrespective of temporary truces. External pressures such as tariffs and export controls have the potential to alter the currently somewhat apathetic or pragmatic mindset of many young Chinese towards issues like Taiwan, pushing them towards more nationalistic stances if they feel their nation is under siege. Ultimately, the United States must pursue policies that safeguard its own core interests while realistically assessing the limits of its ability to reshape China's internal dynamics or its rise as a global power.